We begin with breaking news coming out of Lebanon, where Hezbollah has released a video of what it says is undetected drone footage of sensitive military sites in Israel. Now, the group says it shows various locations, including the Israeli city of Haifa and its vital civilian and military installations. Well, we're live in the Jordanian capital, Amman, but first let's head to Beirut and speak to Al Jazeera's Zeina, Khodr, who joins us now. And this is an important message that Hezbollah is sending to its arch adversary.
Yes, no doubt. Just one of many messages that the Lebanese armed group has been sending to the Israelis. But this one coming just hours after the U.S. envoy, Amos Hochstein, was in Lebanon, really trying to de-escalate tensions along the border. In this video, this 10-minute video, you can see reconnaissance drone, images from that drone showing highly sensitive military and civilian infrastructure. So Hezbollah sources telling us that this is a message to the Israelis. First of all, the Israelis have been threatening a wide-scale war. Hezbollah saying we're ready for it. This is Hezbollah also saying that we have intelligence on sensitive military sites. We have our own bank of targets. So really a message to the Israelis as well as the Americans. Part of an ongoing psychological warfare. This is a very different Hezbollah than the Hezbollah during the last war in 2006. It has a very different arsenal, more sophisticated. In the past few weeks, what it has been doing really is slowly unveiling its capabilities to the Israelis. Really part of a deterrence to prevent the Israelis from widening the war of attrition, which is now in its 8th month, a war that was triggered by Israel's war on Gaza.
And you touch on the context there of why we're seeing this footage and why Hezbollah has released it now, Zeina. It is all about October the 7th and the events that have happened afterwards and what's going on in Lebanon's southern border, which is also Israel's northern border.
Yes, earlier today we heard from the U.S. envoy. He says the situation is serious. He says it's a critical moment and that the Biden administration does not want it to expand, doesn't want the conflict to expand. But his message from Lebanon was really to Hamas, telling Hamas, you better accept the U.S.-backed ceasefire proposal that is on the table. Now, when they send a message to Hamas, they're also sending a message to Hezbollah because they're allies. And for the first time, the U.S. is saying that it is if there is a ceasefire in Gaza, then there could be quiet along the Lebanon front. And this is what Hezbollah has been saying from day one. We will halt the firing if there is a permanent ceasefire in Gaza. But just a few months ago, Hochstein came here and said that a ceasefire in Gaza doesn't necessarily mean and automatically there will be quiet on the northern front. So how some are understanding this is that the U.S. is saying, this U.S.-backed ceasefire proposal, Hamas accepting it, now this is going to be linked to security in Lebanon. So in one way or another, being seen as a veiled threat. So Hezbollah releasing this footage saying we are ready for war. We don't want war, but we are ready for one. So tensions at an all-time high in Lebanon.
Zeina Khodr there for us in Beirut. Thank you. Well, the Israeli government has banned Al Jazeera from reporting there. So Hamdah Salhut is joining us now from the Jordanian capital Amman to report on those Israeli lines. Hamdah, hi. What reaction, if any, has there been from Israel over this revealed surveillance drone footage from Hezbollah?
Well, no reaction from the Israeli political or security establishment just yet, but this will surely be seen as a wide failure in Israel's aerial defense array. Just in the last hour, the army did release a statement saying that they intercepted what they called 3 suspicious hostile aircrafts on Israel's northern border. But if this was a drone that was able to fly over many areas of northern Israel, including the port in Haifa, shows several sensitive military targets like bases, military complexes, and Iron Dome batteries, it's something that the Israeli military is surely going to have to reevaluate how exactly those air defense alarms go off. Now, we have heard from several Israeli officials yesterday after their meetings with the U.S. envoy Amos Hochstein, and that's because they're saying they want to deter the threat on Israel's northern border. They want to mitigate the situation so it doesn't spiral out of control, but that Israel Israel, again, is ready for an all-out war. And I'll remind you that the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu just last week held a situational assessment and said that the evacuations for the towns and settlements in northern Israel would be extended until at least the end of August. So Israel, while they say they are dealing with this problem, it is something that is surely spreading the military thin, having both the southern and northern front open at the same time in a problem that Israel is still not seemingly dealing with.
Hamdah, thanks very much for the Hamdah Salhut there for us in Amman. Of course, the Israeli government has banned Al Jazeera from operating in Israel. That's why we're reporting from neighbouring Jordan. Now, Elijah Magnier is a military and political analyst, joins us now from Paris. Mr. Magnier, good to have you with us back on the programme again. This is a real coup for Hezbollah to get so deep into Lebanon, apparently, but into Israel, but will worry the Israelis that it did so despite the fact that its defence systems, such as the Iron Dome and David's Sling, didn't seem to be set off.
Thank you for having me. Actually, it's quite embarrassing for a drone that is 1.5 meter long and 2 meters wide to fly over 4 anti-air interception batteries, like, as you rightly said, the Iron Dome and David Sling, that were supposed to protect one of the most important military industrial complex in Israel, that is a Rafael, extended on 6.5 kilometers, and then go also to Haifa, where we see the picture of all the Israeli Navy and all the vessels, the SAR 5, the other vessels that are deployed there, sending a message that all these are under the target and the bomb of Hezbollah. And then on the side of the picture, we see again a picture of the Fateh 110, that is one of the most precise missiles that Hezbollah and Iran has, and that can hit any target with a very high precision anywhere in Israel. And presenting all that and returning with all these footage, and then putting up these at the moment when the U.S. envoy is in Lebanon, delivering a message from the Israelis, and the Israelis are saying that they're threatening Lebanon, and they still not understanding that they have no purpose in continuing the war on Gaza, is quite significant.
With the politics of exactly what you've just mentioned, I think the other issue we really need to also focus on is really the quality of this technology and the development in Hezbollah's armoury of what they've got. If we look at these pictures, this video, it's incredibly clear. It's not crackly or broken up. It gives the impression that what they have is very sophisticated, and therefore how sophisticated Hezbollah's thinking has become since the 2006 war. What should we read into this? Because this is exactly what Israeli analysts will now be trying to fathom.
We have seen picture of these kind of drones, even 5 meter distance, which the picture can be even more enhanced. And the reason why is flying over the industry that produce artificial intelligence for all the Israeli military complex, and saying we see every single detail, and then going to a city that 260,000 inhabitants in it, with all the cars moving around, with every single house, saying if you want to expand to phase 2, this is what you're going to be facing, which is the south of the Litani River in Lebanon. And this is where Hezbollah is capable, and saying, well, the Hezbollah you knew in 2006 is no longer the same after 18 years. And this is also a deterrence and psychological warfare that Hezbollah is exerting on the Israelis for Israel to be convinced to stop the war on Gaza.
Is that what's going on here? Because it does really beg the question, if you have such technology and you manage to infiltrate your arch enemy in this particular way, why would you tell them right now, and why would you tell the rest of the world?
General Charles de Gaulle said a long time ago, it is better to show your strength, not to use it. By Hezbollah showing the capability of the drone, showing the rich bank of objective, it is better to avoid the war and stop it now instead of being a destructive war on both sides. So it is telling Israel, if we have to go to the Stone Age, we're going together. So if you are ready for that, Lebanon has been accustomed to that several times and has been destroyed in many areas in previous wars, but you haven't. Now we're ready for it, but we prefer not to go to war unless you insist. And this is where we're going to start hitting you if you go to phase 2 and you want to escalate and enlarge the war.
We'll continue to monitor what is said, both from Lebanon and from Israel in the coming hours. Elijah Magnier, thanks so much for joining us from Paris.
Thank you.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get latest news from Al Jazeera.